think we're good. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining another edition of Deal or No Deal. I'm Nick Lagamar. I'm with Eric Sage. I got Tristan on the call with us today, and we're going to go through one of his deals, and we're going to see if it's a deal or no deal. So, Tristan, why don't you first start out by telling us a little bit about this deal?
We always like to start out when we're dealing with our wholesale fix and flip and buy and hold model, as well as creating paper, is always where did you find this deal? Like what was your resource on finding this?
Yeah,
this
why
seller?
and why did you
and
and why do you have it and not somebody else? I always like to know that too.
yeah.
How did you get it?
Well, I'm not sure the exact source, but it came from one of the sub 2 members, LJ Browner. And it's my primary marketing strategy right now. It's $0 out of pocket, no campaigns, no outbound, and I'm just trusted by a number of students to work the deals with them. And this is one of the ones that came along in July.
Perfect.
So did he source it directly from seller to begin with? Do you
Correct.
know?
He probably had a cold calling or texting or direct mail campaign that he went direct to seller. He's direct to seller, and the seller agreed to sell, and he agreed to buy, and then he knew that you would buy from him, basically, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about this deal. Where's this deal located?
So it's in Missouri, and it's a seller who lives in another state. She's been renting the property for some time now and just wants to get out of it, really.
Why does she want to get rid of it?
There's not really any equity in the property, and she's not making money from the rental. So it's kind of a bit of an alligator, as Michael Zub would say.
Okay.
So no equity deal and a tired landlord, just tired of managing the property for
It's a low equity, no equity deal. If there's any equity.
low equity, no equity, tired landlord.
Tired
Okay.
landlord.
Right.
How's the tenant? Do they pay?
Tenant's been paying, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right, super. Yeah, let's go into it. Tell us a little bit well, you know what? Let's just pull up the sheet and we will do that. Give me a second here to switch this over. Let's see that as we crack a cold one.
Where do we want to go? Where do we want to go here?
We got to go single.
This guy here.
You don't know how to run this thing yet?
I do know how to run it. I just how are we all able to be on the camera?
Do you really want to see that?
Well, it's nice to have your
Okay,
face when you're talking to people, isn't it?
There you go.
There you go.
All right.
Is Tristan in there too, or is he out?
No, he's not in here.
Yeah,
It's not important.
they don't need to be put off
No
by
one's tuning in for Tristan.
Male model.
Yeah. You can jump in if you're gonna chime in the back there. We got an audience. We have audience live in studio today.
Yeah.
Party of one. Jesus
is running the show for us.
2 more people will be breaking fire code, but that's okay.
Jesus saves.
All right, here we go. So can you see the screen okay, Tristan?
I can.
All right, super. So I'm going to start on the left side and go to the right side. Pretty much everything in yellow is what we're going to data input. Okay. So I got this property here. I don't have the original balance. It's not important, I don't think, for this deal. We know what the UPB. So now what I did, because I know we talked about it, that the walkaway money for the seller is what? How much is the seller looking to take on this deal?
$3,000.
And are they getting anything else on the back end?
They are getting some equity paid out over time, about 18,000, give or take at 2%. And I think it works at about 10 years, give or take.
All right. So I took the 18 and
is that a deferred payment?
No, it's going to be monthly.
Monthly. Okay.
So what I did here for the modeling, because the modeling's not built this, I took the $18,000 and I added to the $100,000 payoff.
Oh, perfect.
So the interest is a little lower, but it's lower than the original rate. So I'm just putting the full UPB amount in at $118,890 and leaving the rate the same, because this mortgage has only been in play like not even a year.
Oh,
so there's no pay down on it. So that's why in here, take that. That's why I show it here as the 118. Okay. So if you know what I didn't do here, this is not 100% right.
We can get close.
Yeah. Let's go run the
interest rate's 3.6%.
Run the amortization real quick at 118,890 at 3.63. Tell me what that payment is.
Okay, 118,890. Okay.
3.63%. What's that P&I? What's principal separate?
Interest 3 point. It says 3 point.
No, what's the
6.
principal payment? You got to count. You're calculating it.
No, I know. I don't have mine.
It
Mine
does.
is the other way around. I can't enter payment.
No, you don't have to. Just 118.
Yep.
118,890.
Yep.
890. 3.63 rate.
Mm-hmm.
And then
30-year term.
Yep.
Which, by the way, the 30-year term, you guys, is huge because that's how long you have to pay it.
Okay, principal is
I have 542.53.
Yeah, but I needed I need to break them down. 182.90 is the principal. And then the interest is going to be 359.67. You can't use that because we're adding the 18,000 to it.
I know.
359.67. Okay. 0.67. I wanted to add that payment in there. So now the total
How
payment.
much more is that payment?
Now it's 543. What was it on there before?
Oh, for principal and interest is 472.
Okay, so it went up $70 a month to carry that $18,000.
That's a good deal.
We added in there.
Good
Well,
ticket.
yeah, on this because it's only 2% and it's
Yeah.
actually 3.
Fantastic.
So let's go through this. So the maturity date's 5/50/2050. Cash to seller is 3,000, correct? Closing fees I got at 2,000. We're gonna have some closing costs when we buy and we sell. We're also gonna have an agent fee of I put in there 3% of the sale price. Now, like we talked about, if you sell it on your own, then that will just come to your back pocket. But we always want to model conservatively as if somebody else is going to have to do the work and get paid for it. Okay. And I have
Facebook
zero.
Marketplace is very powerful for the sale of this.
100%.
But then you have to actually work because you have to take the
Somebody's got
calls.
to do it. Right. So we've got in here, we're going to show what it looks like if we do we're going to show it first as with the no risk model, what that looks like. If we can actually do a no risk model on this, which basically means no cash, no risk, cash flow, cash later.
Yep.
And I don't think it's going to work.
And even getting rid of this first.
Yeah, and we'll talk about
rid
that.
of all that and having no responsibility for that money, regardless if you wrap it or take it over or not. So
right now we're down on this. We're in this cash to close number, which some people know it as entry fee. Right. I just call it cash to close. Okay. So for you to control this deal, it's going to cost you $17,618 in cash. Okay. That's what it's between the buy and the sell. Now, what's your intention with this property? You're taking it down on terms. Are you going to turn it into a rental? Are you going to do short term, long term? You're going to wrap it. What's your exit? What's your preferred exit?
I'd intend to wrap it to the tenant that's in there right now.
So step one is go to the tenant and say, "Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Tenant, would you like to own this property?" Well, I don't really have the credit to do it. Well, do you have the income to do it? Do you have the down payment to do it? Is there a way for us to work that out so you could stay and actually have a long-term, have a security of home ownership? So that's step one, right?
Yeah, that's step one. So
good.
The question becomes, so the whole point of the modeling,
immediate buyer just sitting.
The whole point of doing the whole point of doing the modeling is to solve the equation. It's because we just put all this information in based on what Tristan thinks that he should do, or what he's planning to do. Okay. But it doesn't mean that this is going to work for that strategy. Mm-hmm. And if the question is, if it doesn't work, what are the variables that can be changed that may allow it to work? Okay. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go through this right here. So I've got the market value at 150. I think that's pretty close. I'm going to set the owner finance value at 150 because it's going to need a little bit of repairs, but when you adjust for the owner finance premium, it's going to be about that. We got rent value at 1,100. I would like to see that a little bit higher, honestly, based on this price point. I think that's really low.
What do we think the rent value is?
Well, it's 1,100.
That is rent value.
That is the rent value.
Okay, good.
I would like to see it closer to 1,500 though. If we're going to sell,
you could add principal and interest to get to that number.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, there's still taxes and insurance, and that's what I meant. Keep the captive right. But you want the affordability to be as close in line to the rent value
because they're paying how much?
Yeah, and probably that's what the current tenant's going to be in there now. But if you replace them with the right rent value, it's going to change.
Yep.
So we're going to get a 10% down. I don't think there's any problem getting 10% down on an owner finance model, at least today. We talk about this all the time. Not going to be difficult, but you got to model it this way, right? If you can't get it and you find out after the fact, you come back in the model and you adjust it. So we're going to write a first lien and a second lien. Okay. We're going to write a first lien at 9.5%, a second lien at 10.5%, because the idea is we want to be able to sell that first lien to wipe out our cost basis if we can, and be left with some cash flow in the form of the second lien plus the second lien balance. And we're going to see if that actually works. Okay. Everything in gray is already the calculation. So the total P&I payment coming in is $1,160. And we have a payment going out because we have a payment going out to Senlar, and we have a payment going out to the seller, right? That's all in that payment that we're collecting, which is a total of $543. So the net cash flow on this is going to be about $445. We'll break that down on this other side. I've got in here $172 a month in interest only being paid to the private lender. Were you going to borrow this $17,000, Tristan?
I will probably
need your own money.
One of the two. I'm just dabbling on that at the moment.
All right.
I would let's
assume it's zero, because that'd be. Let's say you're going to pay it, and let's see what happens to the. So oops, wrong number, abort. I'm going to take this out right here. So if I take this number, this hard money out right here, then that's going to make the net cash flow go up to $642 a month.
Oh, wow.
So I'm shifting over to
So you went from borrowing your entry fee of $400,
just using it.
Right, to taking it out and putting your own money in, and your cash flow goes to
$17.
Wow.
So then if you go down to the self-funded box right here, okay, he only needs $2,600 out of pocket. Day zero, you close, you got to write a check for 1,700, 17,000, excuse me. You find a buyer, you underwrite them, you get them closed, you sell the note. Let's say that takes 60 days.
And you get down payment.
And you get the down payment. So you get 15,000 back on the down payment. You fronted 17,000.
Okay.
So you really don't need a lot of hard money here. So your adjusted cash out is $2,600, Tristan, which means that your ROI to get you back to cash neutral is only 4 months. Okay.
You get to 617. Yeah. You're
right.
That's a home run.
Well, so far it is.
Okay.
Because now what we're buying here, now where this is trending towards an equity play.
Okay.
A cash flow play, not an equity play. Okay.
Yep.
There's a little bit of equity in here, $16,000, not a lot, but it's better than negative.
Right.
So what does all this mean? Okay. So if we go down to the model, we have to, so we wrote this first and a second, and we're going to go down this orange line first. Okay. This orange line is the what I call the no risk model plus the second lien. So the intention of this exit is to create a first and a second lien, take the first lien and sell it, take the cash proceeds from the sale of the lien, pay off any underlying debt, and then you left with the second lien and the second lien cash flow. Okay.
Yeah, I was just calculating it. You were that.
So based on that, this is where we are. Our cost basis, our buy price is 136, right? That's the cost of everything it takes us to do the transaction. The UPB is 118, plus you have cash to the seller, you have closing fees, you have an agent fee in here of $3,000, you have some other closing cost expense. So your true cost of this property is about $136,508 just to get this thing papered. Okay. So that's how much it's going to have to sell for, at least if you sold it on the market. Well, we already set the price at 150. That's a little tight for me personally. Okay. Is it tight enough?
Yep.
Is it worth doing it for $600 a month? Well, it just depends on how risk,
Well, it depends on how qualified the end buyer is.
Well, there's a lot of other factors, but let's look at the no risk model first. Okay. So in this no risk model, okay, basically what we're saying here is that we want to be out of this as quickly as possible, but no underlying debt, no liability, nothing. Okay.
Okay.
So if we go through this model, we know that the payoff is 136,508. Okay. We know that when we sell that first lien that we wrote for $101,000, we're going to probably sell it for $98,000. Okay. So I'm still down here in this orange line. I'm over in the UPBN, which is the balance that's going to come in from the selling of the first note only. Okay. So that means we're going to have a cash flow in of probably 1 month, net of 617. We're going to have the cash that came in from the down payment. Okay. So at the end of 60 days, when we sell that first lien and I pay off that debt, we have lost $23,296. Okay. That's what it cost us to do that model. What did we gain? We gained $33,000 in the form of a second lien. So if the second lien paid off tomorrow, then we would have made 10 grand. But that's not something that we would do, right? That borrow defaults, you're out of luck here. Plus, here's the other thing I'm looking at, this ROI. If we did that exit, we're looking at now 75 months to get to cash neutral on that 22,000. So this model in and of itself, you would not be a good model. Does that mean it's still not a deal to do? I don't know. We'll find out. Because here's the challenge right here. Here's where I know this is probably not a doable, not a deal. Is that you got $23,000 of cash out. There's no way in this model up here. Well, I take that back. The way that you have to do it, this is why we model this. You got $23,000 out here to get to neutral. Is there $23,000 worth of variable expense over here when we bought it that can be taken out? Well, let's just look at the variables. The agent fee is a variable cost, right? I'm going to just color this blue over here. That can be negotiated, right? What else can be negotiated? Well, there's no repairs. Can't go that. You can't negotiate arrears. Nothing to do. The buyer agent fee, probably can't negotiate that if you list it, right? So I'm going to leave that out.
Right.
But what we do have is this cash to seller is negotiable, right? We can negotiate that.
Right. Yeah.
And we also can negotiate this UPB balance because we added $18,000 in it to it. Okay.
To the seller as well.
To the seller.
But the seller's not going to be able to sell this house.
Absolutely not.
Estate anyway. So by giving her zero, but taking over the risk and taking over the management and taking over the payment and not having her negative cash flow could be a value to her.
I can't restructure it in this model right here without messing everything up. We could do it, but for me, if I'm going to try to make this work as the no risk model, there's no way I'm paying that seller $18,000 in a second lien position. There's no equity in it. I would likely come in.
You could put her in third and not make a payment at all.
And balloon in 10 years, maybe. You could do that.
Whatever.
You can say I'll pay it at the end of the term
when the house gets paid off,
because you're going to generate that. That could work.
So she's got
what I would probably do is I would probably come in the seller and say, look, I will give you maybe $5,000 cash now as your walk away, and no cash flow. You're out of the deal, and that would probably work. And it would roost that, because think about it, if you take if you have it $23,000, if you just wipe out $18,000 off of that, it goes to $5,000. What's 5,000 divided by 308?
Yeah.
So now the question becomes, if this goes to,
16 months.
So if this goes down to, question you need to ask yourself, if this number changed, I'm just going to put $5,000 in here. Okay. Remind me to turn it back.
Hey, Tristan, does the screen need to be bigger?
No, it was just very fluffy. It's got a little clearer in the last couple of minutes.
Okay. So it's probably just our
it could be the bandwidth
connection or whatever.
It should be fine. I can blow. I'm already at I can go a little bit bigger here. Oops, too big. Abort.
There. It's just, is it blurry?
It's just because it's fine. It'll be fine.
Okay.
So I just changed this. I just hard changed this one right here. This line 42, the $5,000. So the question you need to ask yourself, if you wanted to do the no risk model, okay, and you didn't want to have any liability or debt to the underlying mortgage, to the bank or whoever it is, and you sold that first lien, and now you're in a second lien position, would you spend $5,000 of your money for a $33,750 note at 10% interest?
And what's your monthly payment?
$308 a month. So what
Yeah,
is your
so
return on your investment?
Yeah, well, it takes you 16 months to get your money
I
back,
know.
which is great.
So what's your cap rate, or what's your ROI on that? What's 308 times 12 divided by 5,000? Should return.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's going to be really good.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. 74%.
70% cash on cash return.
74.
74.
Can you hear me? 74.
So
That's a pretty
So the
good
question
return.
is, would you invest in this deal $5,000
Mhm.
to generate $308 a month, amortized? Right, this is amortized money.
Yeah.
For a 33,000.
And now that's a no risk model.
You got 5,000 at risk,
deal.
but your return is 16 months.
But you could even go to the seller and say, "Hey, I'll give you my cash flow for the next 16 months or 18, whatever that number."
Whatever.
Is.
But you get, but bottom line, it's a 74% cash on cash return.
For $5,000, you're probably going to be able to find $5,000
if you wanted to stay in the deal.
if you want to stay in the deal.
Okay, so now,
good.
So that's that right there. Okay,
Right.
Tristan, any questions on that? On how
That's the no
how
risk,
I calculated
sell
that?
first, out the door, no risk anymore with a $30,000.
Your risk is not really zero; it's 5,000 in this, and it's not, but it's only for 16 months. And every month that goes by, you get $300 paid down off the debt.
It's limit. Yeah, you're in, and you're going. This isn't an investing into a limited partnership where you may or may not get your money. You're probably going to be getting monthly payments. So every month your risk goes down. Every month it goes down.
Yeah.
So
I'll go back to the bigger screen.
You have the deal there. So
I'm
that's
good. Trying to put it back to where it was.
Okay.
Come on.
How do you do
Well,
that? Are you going down or
it
up?
was, but never mind. I don't know what's.
Can you use your fingers to?
Well, I was trying to put it back to there. It is.
Okay.
Now it's back. Now it's back to the 23. So that's option one. Okay. You got to go back and you got to change that up top. So let's just say that you want to be a little riskier. Okay. In this model. And you say, you know what? I'm pretty confident my buyer is going to be good. If this note gets called, I can just write a check. I'm willing to play the upside on this game. Okay. So let's look at this model. Okay. So if we're going to go up to here to the 3-year payout model. Okay. So what we're saying here, Tristan, is that we're going to use our money to fund the deal, which is going to be a net $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because the other deal was going to cost you $5,000 to wipe out the debt.
Yeah.
This one only cost you $2,600.
But you get more cash flow.
You get a lot more cash flow.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So, but there's more risk.
Right.
That's the whole point of what we're looking at here. Am I willing to incur? Is the upside gain greater than the downside risk?
Yep.
And that's a personal question that everybody needs to ask themselves
on
what it is. So let's just say Tristan says, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to go with it. Let's see what 3 years does. Okay. So what we did here, Tristan, is we have a 3-year payout. We're going to see what happens in 3 years. We already know what happens in 60 days. We just talked about that. What happens in 3 years? We're going to keep the debt in place, right?
You're going to arbitrage it.
We're going to arbitrage it, and we're going to do fast forward 3 years, and we're going to
the 18,000 still in there in this model. This is given.
Yeah, it's all still in there.
This is given the seller.
We didn't negotiate it.
You just
it's the same deal.
took over the payment.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
So they're going to get a second lien payment on there, whatever it is. They're junior to the first.
Yep.
So we're going to say, okay, we're going to fast forward 3 years. We're going to run the AM schedule on it, and we're going to figure out the payout in 3 years. We're going to owe $115,708. That's what we're going to owe to settle this. So the buy price pay off everything.
Or the first.
Well, we're going to get
the seller.
Yes. Now we're going to get cash in because we're going to sell that first lien only.
Yep.
That's why we write a first and a second lien. Okay.
Yep.
Because we don't want to sell the second lien until we absolutely have to, if at all.
Right.
The first lien is we're going to collect $108,001. Okay. So the net, and we're going to get cash flow. What is our cash flow? Our cash flow, remember, is $617 a month. So if you take 617 times 36, it should be about $22,000.
Yep. 22,212. Yep.
22,27. Okay, so that's the cash in. You follow me so far, Tristan?
That's a 3-year cash flow.
You follow us so far on where we're at on the numbers?
You've received.
Now we're taking a snapshot in time 3 years from now. Okay, 3 years is going to come, and we're going to say, stop. And what are we going to do when we stop? We're going to sell the first lien. We're going to take cash in. We're going to pay off our debt, and we're going to be left with something. So what are we going to be left with? Okay. Well, that's this part over here. We still owed net cash of $2,618 because that's what we borrowed from ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So 3 years from now, our cash position, cash in our front pocket, 11,902. Okay, you follow me on this, Tristan?
Just on the first.
Just on the
Just on the
first
first.
only.
Yeah.
We still own the free and clear second lien
Yep.
at $33,000 is the balance now, and cash flowing $308.
So in 3 years, you get 11,000. You got to pay off that first, sell the first, whatever. You made 20 in 11. You made almost $12,000.
I mean, $12,000. Now there's
And-
risk with that.
Yeah,
Let's
there
be
is-
clear
there-
on
there
that.
is risk.
That note could have got called in year one.
Mhm.
The borrower could maybe not have paid. There's a lot of things that you need
That are unknown, but it's
deal
worth
makers
it.
need to be aware of that they can do.
Yeah.
But that's why I said, is the upside gain worth the downside risk?
Mhm.
Well, you do enough of these, it most definitely is. So what does this look like? So in 3 years from now, you got almost $12,000 cash, plus you still got the UPB unpaid
What-
balance on the second
What
lien.
was your net what was your first and second net cash flow? Is that-
Initially 617.
okay, so that's both of them.
So that goes away, right?
Okay.
All the P&I from the first lien,
Mhm.
which was will go away.
Yeah.
But also what goes away is the payment to the
Yeah, you have no
underlying
risk at
debt.
that point.
So that's gone. So now you're playing with house money as far as I'm concerned. Well, let's just say you go 5 years on this, okay?
Okay.
Let's just say and I've got transactions like this that are well over 10 years now.
Oh yeah.
It's very likely this could stay in play with if
Especially
you
when
underwrite
you're
the deal.
selling on seller financing, your sellers, your new buyers, if they can afford that payment and it has a long term, typically they'll make the payment and
Yeah.
unless they have to move.
Right, but exactly. So let's go to 5 years now, okay, Tristan? Because
Yeah.
if you're going to go in, you're going to go in probably.
Yeah.
But we just want to know what the payoff would be, and because that note
Yeah.
gets called in 3 years,
Yeah,
you want to know what it
yeah,
is.
This goes back to getting cash flow and then a lump sum.
And
payout.
I don't have a calculator in here, but you can actually figure out where your break even point is.
Yep.
If that happens. But in 5 years, if this goes, I'm not going to go through all the numbers again. Now your cash position is $26,767.
So when the thing pays off, you're getting a $26,000 check.
No,
including cash flow.
when we sell the first lien
Yeah, right.
in 5 years,
Yep.
okay, that gets paid. We sell that note, we get that cash in, pay off the debt.
Yep.
The net of that transaction is $26,767
Yep.
to us. But what do we still have?
A second.
Still have the free and clear second,
Yep.
which still has a balance due to us of $32,697
Yep.
plus $308 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to 10 years. Okay, because I'm not going to continue to do on this more. 10 years, most of these notes are paying off
7 to 10.
7 to 10, about 9.5 years now.
But seller finance deals go a little longer than the average 7-year person. So whatever.
So here's the deal. 10 years from now,
Yep.
let's just say for sake of argument that everything gets paid off. Okay, the first lien gets sold. We probably wouldn't sell. Let's say
First gets paid off.
First lien gets sold, the debt gets paid off, the borrower the next day calls the bank on the second loan, which is us, asks for a payoff,
Mm-hmm.
we give them the payoff. So 10 years from now, the cash from the first part of the transaction, $64,000.
That's cash flow and equity in the note that
that's
you
the
were
actual
arbitraging.
cash.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then the second lien gets paid off,
Mm-hmm.
and that payoff is another $30,921. So you're
About
talking
$100,000
$94,000 over 10 years on this deal
on a dead deal.
that you leveraged $2,600 on in 30 days.
Is that good?
I don't know what's the cap rate on that.
I don't even know. It's a lot.
I do know this, that that once you have the underlying debt paid off,
Yeah.
the return on the investment of that second lien is infinite.
It's infinite. Yeah.
Because there's no cost basis.
Yeah.
Is
So
that
for a $2,600 investment to make potentially $95,000 over 10 years is a pretty damn good deal.
I think the risk is well worth taking.
So is this a deal or no deal?
I think it's a deal.
I think and then not
Well, it
to
depends
mention,
on-
but then you could go back to the seller and just negotiate better, saying, "Hey, this
Yes.
is
Well, that's where that's where I'm going to
to
wrap. I'm going to circle back to that now.
But it's a deal if I do this, and that's up to you.
Can you imagine if we don't have if we start $108,000 instead of 118 at 3% over
Yeah.
10 years?
Yeah,
That's going to be because what's going to happen when you run the dual amortization schedules
Yeah,
and you start, even if you start out at the same,
it's a 6-figure deal. Let's put it
100% it is,
Yeah.
because the pay down at 108,000 at 3.5%
Yeah.
is much faster than the pay down on 135,000 at 9.5%, 10%.
Exactly.
You're creating, every year that goes by, you're creating a bigger gap
Yep.
on what you owe versus what's owed to you.
And the borrower's just paying down your,
Yes.
paying you money.
So there's some definitely value in there. I think if this was my deal, I would probably first try to get that. My first thing I would do is try to get the seller completely out of the deal. I'd give them as little cash as I could, because it's a low equity deal at best.
If they go put this on the market, they're writing a check,
They're probably writing a check,
and they need to know that
100%, because they're going to have to pay about 10% to get this thing
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
They're probably, realtor's going to want them to clean it up.
Mhm.
They're already dealing with the tenant in there. They got to deal
Time.
with that.
cash.
Yeah.
So what is this? So, oops, the screen went dark there. So let's talk about, so where are the, because the whole idea is to use this modeling before you come up with the terms with the seller. So you can give them, you can make the best offer possible. So my first thing I would do is say, instead of giving them $3,000 cash and $18,000 in a note, I would say, I'm not doing it. I'm going to give you $5,000 cash, and I'm going to be done with the deal. They might say, no, I'm not. I want more than that. This is part of the negotiating. And I would, so let's just say, well, if that's the case, I'm going to give you 18,000. Then I'm not going to make any payments on any amount for 3 years.
Mhm.
And then at that point in time, I'll start making a payment. I could do that.
Mhm.
I might say, you know what? I'll give you $25,000, but it's not going to be paid until
Until the house is sold, or the
Till
house
the-
is sold.
until the house is sold.
Sold, not paid, not.
Well, when
Not
the
paid off.
no, it gets, well, when the original debt is paid off.
Well, if the original debt's paid off and you still owe that money, that might.
But
get
when you
to
pay off
the
the original debt, it'll go away,
Okay.
because there's no way you're going to pay that off. Somebody's going to have to bring the money in to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you just say, then you go, there might be 2 years, might be 22 years.
Yeah.
And then whenever that is, you have a lien in that property.
Yeah, but you have
$25,000.
basically an investment. You
'Cause look at-
probably, you know, she
well,
probably
look at it.
paid 100. Got
Here,
100%
look,
financing
let's look
on
down
this.
here 10 years from now. Let's back to this line.
Yeah.
If you had a back end note on there of $25,000,
Yeah, you get paid.
and you got 64 coming in plus another 30 going out,
Yeah.
still a good deal.
Yeah, it's still a good deal.
It's actually going to be more than that, because
You-
you're not paying
You
over
would, you would
time.
never have to offer that to a seller.
Us-
in
that's
this
the point.
circumstance.
100% you
But
will
you
not.
could. But that's why you run the model and spend
Yes.
30, 40 minutes just giving yourself, just knowing what the potential is.
And really, to take the time to do the model and put the stuff in and play with the numbers and do the what ifs on it,
Yeah.
it doesn't take very long, because you're going to see it right away. How much of this cash to close is actually variable expense that you can negotiate,
play
right?
around with. Yep.
Could you come back in and offer the agent $1,000?
Mhm.
Well, what is it? 100% of a grape's less than
Yeah.
bit of a
Yeah,
watermelon?
what do you want? 25% of a watermelon, or 100% of a grape?
Yeah, 100% of nothing's less than 50% of something.
Yeah.
So there again, that's your negotiating. But the more you know about the exit, the better off you're going to be. Because look, this is real enticing over here. I'm over here at this net cash flow number. For a $2,600 investment, I can make $617 a month. That's pretty exciting, for most people. And they're going to go, wow. But there's risk with that, and that's okay, as long as you understand the risk and you know how to exit. That's why the value is writing this first and second lien, in my opinion, because for whatever reason, even down here, if you had negotiated this down, I'm on this orange line again, and this goes, and let's go back to that 5,000 number again that we had. Your ROI 16 months. That's in this number right here is probably the most important number to me on this spreadsheet,
Mm-hmm.
because the first question I'm going to ask myself is that if the worst case is I got to spend $5,000 for a $33,000 note that pays me 9.5% amortized, and I'm getting $308 a month, and my ROI is 16 months, and we already know the cash flow
I
is.
mean, I always look at stuff. If I can get my money back in 36 months or less, it's a deal.
The challenge is if you go too far out, you run out of cash, right? Like, I mean, I don't know how much Tristan has, but I don't care how big your stack is. If you keep putting $10,000 and $20,000 in every deal and you don't ever get it back, you don't have any more cash to do the deal. So this number you want to keep fairly low, and I would rather build it, put it on the back end then pay it on the front end.
Yeah, and
We'll
you can
leverage
offer
it.
that to the seller.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tristan, what questions do you have on this? I mean,
It's definitely an eye opener for sure.
Let's do the
yeah, hang on. I'm going to go back to the.
see if our camera one,
Hey,
camera
camera
two,
one, camera two,
one,
camera two.
camera two.
I look like I'm 12 compared to you. You got to back up a little bit, you're making me look small.
Is that it?
No, you in your chair.
Oh,
You're leaning up and I'm back. So what questions do you have? Like, because the whole thing is we want to underwrite the borrow, right? Really important part of this piece of it,
Yeah.
right?
I based on, to me, this is somewhat of a tight deal because it's kind of a no equity deal.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would tell the seller, hey, and I've done this a lot. Hey, I can give you X, but I need to, I give me 30 to 45 days to sell this property. And then if I can get X amount of money, you're going to walk away with probably some cash in your pocket and not having to write a check to sell it on the open market. So what do you have nothing to lose at this point. You already have someone making the payment. And so I'm going to go and see what I can do to put that together. And this typical one-off seller probably has one property. She's not going to know how to do seller financing or any of those options.
There were a couple red flags for me on this deal.
Mm-hmm.
And one is what the true value is on this property.
Yeah.
Number two, the rent value seemed extremely low relative to the actual market value or what the owner finance value would be.
Yeah.
Ideally, in these price points, okay,
Mm-hmm.
if you can make the cost of ownership close to the cost of rent,
Mm-hmm.
this is a home run.
Even if you go rent and say you got to pay taxes and insurance, and that's an extra $100 to $150 a month for someone to have a 30-year place to live, safety, security, and that's worth, that is 100% worth it.
It becomes more objective than subjective for them to decide if they want to do it.
Yeah, pay a few extra $100 a month to not have to move.
Yeah, well, but they don't ever have to move again as long as they pay.
No.
They don't ever have to worry about being.
They're not going to get displaced because the landlord decides to sell the house like this is happening here.
Yeah. So the other thing I would maybe consider doing, it was something that you were sort of talking about. We do transactions that we call sub threes. A lot of people don't even know what sub three is. It's just what we call it. David Alexander, I think out of Dallas, coined it. Whatever. I give him some street credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, what you do is that you agree in terms to the transaction with the seller, but don't close on it, and then you go find the buyer at this $150,000 and $10,000 down. You still control the deal and you still structure it. You still paper it, everything the same, but you know the answer to the question
before you close.
Yeah,
you've underwritten the borrower.
And then it takes all the risk out of it. And then if you get a better deal than you think, then you can pay the seller a little bit.
Let me ask you a question. Let's just say this tenant.
That's the third one. That was the thing. The other thing. That was the other red flag. There's a tenant in this property.
Right.
Now, this was owner occupied. I'm much more bullish on doing this deal. But let's be honest. We're in a
this tenant could just go ahead and squat down and legally not have to pay you a penny if they don't want to right now.
Exactly. So that's another.
Tenant occupieds are rough.
It's tough right now because it's a wild west out there.
You can use that in your favor in a negotiation with
the
the seller.
100%.
How do you know that's not even happening right now? You don't know that.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Right. Absolutely.
What other questions or thoughts do you have that we can answer with you on this? And I'd like to circle back and sort of figure out what you ultimately end up doing and how it actually turns out, because that's a big part of this as well. What are your thoughts now after you see this? What do you think you're going to do with this?
I definitely think I'm going to look at the 5 or 10 year setup where there's a bit of risk but higher reward. And
a lot of higher reward.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, come on, you got your risk is a 3.625% interest
cheap
rate.
debt. We talk about that all the time.
Where are you going to find that debt when you want to buy in bulk and just keep picking these up? One of the things I ran a calculation the other day, and the principal on this is $167, right? Well, take 100 and these deals in our world of working with motivated sellers, networking with investors that work with motivated sellers, different network groups. They look at these and they're like, I can't wholesale this to make money. I can't fix and flip it to make money. I mean, you could literally within a year have 100 of these pretty pretty easily if you just focused on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But whatever, maybe it's 2 years.
Well,
It
and
takes
you know,
to
if
get
there's
on
any
there.
other questions, you know, put them back in the chat. We'll continue to answer them. We got
Yeah.
a lot of the questions
Yeah,
already answered.
Yeah, you can always post in the chat
And
here.
you know, if they want more information, they can always go to creativedealmaker.com or they can put their email address in the chat if they want to communicate with us, because they can subscribe to the channels, and as we get more deals.
Well, what I wanted to get at real quick before we close up is just to say it takes you 2 years and you have 100 of these things, right?
Yeah.
That's $16,000 a month in principal pay down. That's $200,000 a year paying down.
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier.
Savings.
That's the secret savings account. Yeah.
Person's retirement. He doesn't even have to think about.
Well, that's the deal.
It's $200,000
inside the deal, right? I mean, you both start here, but the pay down is so much faster here than this one. They're both paying down, and the longer it goes in, the more equity position there is that's generated.
And guess what you provided? You know, a buyer that was unable to to have home ownership, most likely the last 3 or 4 weeks ago, and all of a sudden you come in and say, yeah, you qualify, and here's why. You've got them fully underwritten, and now they're not a tenant anymore, and they're an owner. And that's why I like this business so much, is because that reason right there. That husband and wife and family and kids all of a sudden went from being a tenant for the rest of their lives to potentially home ownership.
Exactly.
That's why we do this, you know?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all I've got.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I'm good. This is great. Thanks,
Tristan, thanks for joining us. Hope this helps out.
Thank you so much. Very much so. Thank you.
Episode of Deal or No Deal, and we'll see you on the next call.
All right.
Take care.
See ya.
Thank you. Cheers.